Hi, so this will be the static postural assessment. Like I mentioned before, I am going to be assessing myself pretty much. So first, I'm just going to be standing here real quick from the anterior view and assessing myself. So first, I want to talk about there is an imaginary line that goes midway through your heels, if I'm correct, between the heels, extending upward between the lower extremities, through the midline of the pelvis, and through the trunk and skull. You want to make sure for your feet and ankles, you want to make sure that your is parallel to each other. Feet are straight. It's not externally rotated or internally rotated. No excessive flattening, supination, or pronation. And for your knees, you want to make sure there's no varus or valgus, bow leg, knock knee, stuff like that. And you also want to check to see if you want to check for your client or your person that you're working with that their knees are in line with their first and second toe. And for your hips, you want to make sure your ASIS are leveled and not imbalanced. And for your shoulders, you want to make sure they're leveled as well on both sides. And for your head, no rotation, no tilts. You want to make sure it's in a neutral position, as well as all the other body parts that I have explained, all in neutral position, pretty much. And for the lateral side of you that we're going to be looking at, there's an imaginary line behind the lateral malleolus, through the midline of the femur, center of your shoulder, and the middle of the ears. So to start us off for the lateral view, the foot and ankle, working our way up to the top to the head. You want to make sure that your leg is neutral. There's a 90-degree angle right here to the sole of your foot. And for your knees, you want to make sure it's not flexed or hyperextended. So you just want to make sure it's a neutral position, just like that. And for your hips, you want to make sure there's no anterior or posterior tilts, any like extensions, lumbar extensions, arching. And for your shoulders, you want to make sure it's not like rounded or anything like that. And for your head, you want to make sure it's not jutted forward. You want to make sure your client's head is just in neutral position. And for your posterior view, so looking at my back, you want to make sure your heels are straight and parallel to each other. No external or internal rotation. And for your knees, you want to make sure your knees are in line with your toes, your first and second toe. For your hips, you want to make sure your PS, IS are level, right here. And for your shoulders, you want to make sure there's no winging, no rounding, anything like that. And for your head, you want to make sure there's no tilt. You want to make sure it's in neutral position. And I believe that is the static postural assessment. One more thing for the posterior view, there's the imaginary line between the heels as well, extending upward between the lower extremities through the midline of the pelvis, through the spine and skull. And I only showed you, another thing I want to mention is I only showed you the right side of the lateral view. The left side lateral view is pretty much similar or the same as the right side. And I believe that is all for the static postural assessment.